Let's begin by going to page 76. We'll start with the recitation of the Heart Sutra. Oh, I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem, thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on mass of vultures mountain. In Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas, at that time the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time the bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage trained who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that then the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, no factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition, no factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment. Bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment, in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as true since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Aragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that one should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by the Bhagavan.
I and all
Surrounding sentient beings, go for refuge to Buddha, go for refuge to Dharma, go for refuge to Sangha. We prostrate to the Great Mother, Prajnaparamita, surrounded by all the children and by assemblies of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. By depending on my prostrations to all of you, may these words of truth be actualized. In the past, the Deva King Indra dispelled the Maras by reflecting on the profound meaning of wisdom gone beyond, and reciting the profound words in daily recitation. In that same way, I also reflect on the profound meaning of the Great Mother, Prajnaparamita, and recite the profound words in daily recitation. May all diseases, spirit possessions, bad conditions, all the negative directions, that which happens due to past karma and immediate conditions, may all this be dispelled. May it become non-existent. May it be pacified.
I'll go forward to either page 97 or 98, depending upon the version of the prayer book that you have. You're going to the short mandala offering prayer, which we'll do in Tibetan, the first verse, and then the second verse, the request to turn the wheel of Dharma, we'll do that in English. Sajivodhi Shruti Meto Tramri Radlinji Nidekyan Adi Sangye Shindu
wells of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release the rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained.
And refuge in bodhicitta twice in Tibetan and then once in English.
Sangye Chodan Soki Chodam La Changchu Badu Yagi Gyatsu Chi Dagi Chunyan Gepe Sonamgi Drola Pincher Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chodan Soki Chodam La Changchu Badu Yagi Gyatsu Chi Dagi Chunyan Gepe Sonamgi Drola Pincher Sangye Druparsho.
I go for
Refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
Again, as usual, I would like to take a few moments for us to relax and calm down our body and mind by paying your attention to the breath. We try to generate a good intention, motivation for being here. We can think may this time, sessions here, be most beneficial for oneself and all sentient beings. May this help me to reduce and gradually eliminate the anger and all other disturbing thoughts. and may it help us to cultivate the inner good qualities of patience and all other positive qualities. Thereby being most beneficial, most helpful to oneself and all sentient beings. Okay.
Does everybody have a text? Okay, pass it to me. Facility hand raised your hand.
There's a few more back there that we're waiting.
So before we go to the main verse, which is on 11, let me again just summarize what we talked last week and what we have been discussing so far. We have discussed so far how destructive anger is, hatred is for oneself and for others, how destructive it is for, and how harmful it is for immediately and in short term, in the long term. And we also discussed one of the reasons why we more likely to become to be angry is when we are upset, when we are not happy with ourselves or with our life or with certain situations in our life. Then when our mind is not calm, not peace, not happy, then we are more likely to be upset, more angry, and so forth. So therefore, one way of stopping anger is by stopping the fuels which give to the anger, and that means the fuel being unhappy, sad, not being calm. So the way to do is to try to remain ourselves calm all the time, joyful all the time, as much as we can, no matter what external circumstances that we might face, whatever difficulties, problems that we might face, we always try to remain ourselves calm, peace, and happy as much as possible. If we can do that, if we can remain calmness, peace, and happy, then it doesn't give opportunity to the anger and hatred to arises. And so therefore that is, then we talk about how to remain calm and peace through certain different way of looking at situations, investigating, analyzing at the situation from different perspectives, from different angles, and so trying to remain calm and peace all the time. So I think that is, yeah. The point is, we do experience a lot of physical and external challenges and problems in our life, but don't allow those circumstances to make your mind upset, frustrated, anger, and so forth. We don't have to do that. despite external and physical challenges, we can still remain mentally peaceful, calm, happy. And so that is all things that we discussed last week, and before that, that was about that. So again, another reason why we get anger, one of the cause and condition to get angry is again the verse, what we call eight worldly concerns or eight worldly dharma, which are like attachment to certain things. And so when we have eight worldly concerns or eight worldly dharma or attachment, then again that lead to anger and hatred. So that is verse number 11. For myself and for my friends, I want no suffering, no disrespect, no harsh words, and nothing unpleasant. But for my enemies, it is the opposite. So again, that is what we feel normally as ordinary beings. As ordinary beings, we do not, because we are attached to happiness, so we do not want the opposite of that, the suffering. So we have attached to happiness, and we have aversion to the suffering, pain. And so, and we want the happiness, but we do not want the suffering to oneself or to our families, to our friends, our dear ones. And when we do encounter unhappiness, then that upsets us, that disturbs us. And with that kind of disturbance and upsetness, then that lead to anger and hatred. So one of the reasons why we get upset and angry is because when we encounter those pains, sufferings, because we are aversion to that, because we don't want that. And that is because we have strong attachment to the happiness, joy, or the state of non-suffering, free from suffering. Then, when we don't get the material things, wealth, so forth, again we are unhappy. We don't want, because we are so attached to things, material things, possessions, objects. When we get them, we get very excited, happy. But when we don't get them, then our mind gets disturbed, upset. And because of that upsetness and disturbance, then again we become angry and hatred arises. So due to not having enough material things, wealth, and so forth, so because people will not respect you because you don't have enough material wealth. Not everyone, but some people does not respect you because you don't have wealth and material things and so forth. You are not rich enough. And because of that, then again, we don't want to be in a state where you are poor, and you don't want to be in a state where you have disrespect, which come due to that. Again, because we are so attached to fame, reputation, good reputation, fame, and so forth, then again we have aversions to the opposite of that. Criticism. When people use very harsh words in front of you and criticize you, again we have aversion to that, and we don't want that. And when that happens, again our mind is disturbed. Because our mind is disturbed, then we get upset, and because of that, again, anger arises, which destroy ourselves and others, which harm ourselves and others. And because we are so attached to praise, where people are talking always good about you, or your family, your friends, so forth. Because we are so attached to that. Praise, pleasant words, pleasant things. So we have aversion to the unpleasantness. Because of your attachment, so attached to the the pleasantness of that praise, someone talking good about you, your family, friends. So we have aversion to the opposite of that, and we don't want that. So when someone talk not so nice thing, unpleasant, about yourself, about your families, about your friends, then again our mind gets disturbed. Our mind gets disturbed, agitated, make us upset, and because of that, again, we get angry. We get angry. So since we do not want all this suffering and disrespect due to the poorness or not having enough well and so forth, criticism, harsh words, and unpleasant words. So because we have aversion and we don't want it, and when we encounter it, then that disturbs us. That disturbs us. On the other hand, when those things happen to someone you dislike, someone you have conflict, your enemy, you might get upset, but you might not get upset and disturbed, but quite happy, satisfied, thinking that that was what I was looking for. That's what he or she needed. Feel like it has been justified. Justified. That is how normally, as ordinary beings, that is how we feel it. So when someone's it is strange, isn't it? When someone experiences pain, suffering in their life, someone who have with conflict, whether we call it enemy or not, but someone we dislike very much, someone who have conflict, when they experience pain and suffering in their life, when they lose something, someone, or when they lose job, relationship, whatever, all these things, instead of feeling compassion for them, feeling kind of compassion, we feel delighted as ordinary beings. So that is why, yeah. Why do we feel delighted when we see someone in such a miserable, such a pain experience? It doesn't help us. It doesn't change our situations. If it change our situation, maybe there is some reason to do that. Because if our situation improve because of that, it doesn't improve. Our situation, whatever our situation, that will remain same. But feeling some kind of joy and happy into seeing a miserable of someone doesn't make sense. But still, we do. Why is that? Because of our anger. So much hatred, so much anger that we have towards that person. That's what makes us delighted in seeing the pain and suffering of others. It is our anger and hatred that make us feel that way.
It's also because I think we feel justified and validated in that we think that person is a bad person, and now, oh look, they're suffering. Well, that justifies my feeling that they were bad to begin with. Because now look, they're suffering. So I think it's a feeling of being justified in how we feel. Yeah, validated in that feeling.
And we feel that justified, validated, because we have so much anger and hatred, negative feelings and thoughts about them, or their actions and so forth.
Well, in the first place, we didn't like what they said about us or what they did to us, and we don't believe it. So when they have a downfall, then it's like revenge in a way. And it's kind of like a double thing that we've done there, you know. We feel bad and we've gotten revenge as well. So, not so good.
Yes.
Maybe I've just always lived with really close, tight communities, and it always just comes back on you if you rejoice when somebody gets hurt, it's going to come right back. I mean, maybe if I lived in a broader world, you could just walk away feeling satisfied that somebody got theirs, it would make a difference. But my experience has been that in the first place, you have an attachment to that person, so you can have karma with that person. So if they're going to suffer, it's going to come back to you in some way. It just doesn't work to be happy about it. I mean, that's been my experience. I mean, it's not that I'm above having negativities at all. It's just experience will tell you it comes back and hits you.
Yep. Well, I mean, if you talk from karmic point of view, it has to come back in certain form, in certain way, or in a matter of time. Sometimes, if you look from karmic point of view, there is no doubt about that, of coming back in whatever form, whenever. Sometimes more faster, sometimes it takes more time, but that is same reaction will come, same reactions. One will experience the same, similar. So therefore, we have to learn and practice and train how to not to have aversions to those objects, not to have aversions and strong feeling of resistance to the suffering, pain, and being in a state where you don't have a lot of wealth and positions, and therefore having some disrespect from others and so forth. Criticisms and unpleasant words, speech, and so forth. So we have to train, learn, and practice not to have too much resistance to it, being more kind of openness for whatever it comes, able to accept everything as it comes. If we have that skillfulness to accept whatever it comes, then our mind will be less disturbed. Our mind will be much more calmness, whatever situation we face. So when your mind is more calm, then of course it doesn't disturb you so much, it doesn't make you so much upset, it doesn't make you so much angry. And that is good for you, good for others. So that is where training comes. How to accept graciously, how to accept with big heart and courageous to all these situations which we don't want normally, but we train to accept them if it comes, if you counter it that. So that is how what we should train. So cultivating a patience to endure some of those problems, some of those hardships. If you have the patience to endure some of those problems, some of those hardships, then when it do come, it will not disturb us so much, because you have the capacity, ability to endure that. Yes?
Perhaps, I hope I'm getting this right, we need to develop a certain faith in the result and the fact that the karma that we have earned is going to come through. At the end of this situation, things will be better, perhaps. You know, at least if we are doing the work that we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from Buddhist point of view, as I said, when you do something good, positive result has to come. There's no doubt about that. The problem is that we want to see the immediate result now, and sometimes it doesn't come immediately that way, and so we get upset and we think maybe our good deeds has been wasted. There's no positive result of that. But if we have a strong belief and understanding of karma in long term, then it is going to come. It might not be so obvious at the moment. It might not come in this very lifetime sometime, but it is not wasted. It's definitely not wasted. It is positive resolve will manifest. It's a matter of time. Yes.
So I have been in work situations that have been really difficult. I can think of a couple. And so I stuck it out for a long time. How do you know? So, and I couldn't overcome the environment, no matter what I tried. So how do you know? And then at what point do you then leave? Because you can't work in that environment because there's so much negativity, or because the environment itself arouses the feeling of negativity. I mean, how long do you stay in a place that feels toxic to try to work with your mind in that situation? When you can leave?
And I think I just make an announcement, the people in the other room cannot hear the questions, and so when you get a question, let's hand you the mic. Thank you.
Should I say it again?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is that I've been in work environments in the past that were very, very negative and very difficult. And I sat and I worked in those environments and I tried really, really hard to not be attached, to not feel frustrated, to not strike out, to be quiet, to be passive, to practice. But it didn't change the environment. And I didn't have the strength to change my mind. So at what point then do you say, okay, I can't do this anymore, and step out of that environment?
I think it's a very hard questions. Again, I think it depends on individual, you know. I think that is, it so much depends on individuals. I think some people have capacity, more capacity. If they can step some more and work with that, maybe they can work with themselves, they can improve themselves, and they might even change the environment as well. Some people might not have that capacity, and it might be make them even worse than that. So there is so much unhappiness and negative thoughts, feeling going, but you are just trying to be nice. Basically, it's not really being nice, but more of sometimes you are just being passive, basically. Not because you have compassion, not because you have the patience, not because that, but you feel I have to be kind of passive, and that, so that will explode one day, you know. You can't keep that, it will explode. And so while you are holding that, it is not helpful to oneself, you are not feeling good about yourself, that feeling is not a good feeling. And then one day it will explode, and then it might create even much more worse situation for both. So in those cases, then of course it is better to kind of what you call, distance oneself from that situations. And so I guess it depends on individuals. It will depend on the environment situation itself. It depends on the individuals, the person who is working with that. How so they have to know themselves, and so they have to, by being honest with themselves, by looking on themselves, how they are feeling it, and how much they are able to make kind of progress or not, and whether it's making some progress or it's not making. So it's something one has to evaluate oneself, and then on the basis of that one has to make the decision whether one should back up, distant, or remain in that situation to change it. So I think yeah.
I don't know, this microphone's off. I'm not sure why we're getting a reverb in the other room.
Well, shout. How about shouting? My experience has been when I was stuck in a very negative situation, I had to get over my own sort of hubris that I could solve the problem, because I was dealing with really cuckoo people. I mean, they judged each other cuckoo and were not seen as too sane, but we were all aware of the situation, but it wasn't going to work out. And guess what? Doesn't it say in the Bodhisattva vows that when you're around malevolent people, just to back off?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the individual. So
Yeah.
some people, they have the capacity to deal with it, they have enough compassion, they have enough patience, so they can deal with it and they can overcome it. It is not, but if you are not in that capacity, then it's better to back up.
Yeah, if you can't solve the problem, you're kind of... I mean, it's karma, I think, is very thick, because if you're in situations where everybody's karma is so tangled up, I mean, I was just not intelligent enough, I think, to figure out. I tried to be patient, and it just made everybody crazier. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, sometimes your karma is ripening, and you're with really negative people.
Again, I think I want to clarify. I think I have mentioned many times before, and I will remind again and again, and I again want to remind, patient doesn't mean passive. Okay? A lot of things boiling in my mind. I want to get to that person's, but I'm being very passive because I don't want to look myself bad, or I don't want. That is not patience. Patience is when your mind is totally not disturbed because of your different perspective, understanding of the situation out of person. So your mind is not disturbed. Your mind is. That is what state of real patience is. For us, a lot of us, we get confused with the patience in terms of more of actions than the feeling or state of mind. Do you get it what I mean? State of mind is there's so much boiling, anger and unhappy and frustrated. But my external action, I don't take any action. I try to be very passive and not say anything, not do anything. That is not real patience we are talking about. Patience is state of mind that you are not disturbed. Your mind is not disturbed. Your mind is calm because you have different perspective about the situation, about the persons. Because of your different perspective, different understanding, or because of your wisdom, then your mind is not disturbed. So when your mind is not disturbed, when your mind is calm, then of course, depending on the situation, then you decide whether you should say something or you shouldn't say something. Should you do something or shouldn't you do something? That's another different level. Do you get it? That is on different level. But the patience we are talking about is not talking about that level. We are talking about mental state of level. Yeah.
So then that requires an awful lot of practice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that is because a lot of time I think we always kind of we get confused with the actions and the state of mind. And when we talk about patience, it's a state of mind. So when my mind is very calm, because I see the situation, person from different perspective, different way. When my mind is calm and not disturbed, then I will use my own wisdom. Whether it will be helpful if I say something or if I don't say something to change the situation. Should I act or not act by using my own common sense, using my own wisdom, and so forth. But when your mind is calm in that, then whether you decide to say something or whether you decide not to say something, whether you decide to take some action or not actions, you will it will not make you so disturbed and so forth. So yeah. Then the verse number 12. The cause of happiness sometimes occur, but the cause for suffering are frequent. Without suffering, there is no renunciation. Therefore, mind, you should stand firm. So here, before that, we just talk about why we get angry, because we don't want suffering, and we have aversion to suffering. So when you encounter the suffering, then we get upset and angry. So we have to change that, so that you don't get that you don't have so much aversion to the suffering. If you don't have so much aversion to the suffering, when you encounter it, you will not be so disturbed so much. So it is a training, a learning to have a patience to endure the suffering. So when you train and when you learn and train to endure the pain, suffering, acceptance of that suffering, then you have, when you encounter it, you have less aversions. Less disturbance. So therefore, this is the where is training. So here we are talking about one way of looking at it, knowing that as long as we are in samsara, samsara means imperfect state or existence. Samsara means when our state, our existence or state is driven by our delusions, our karma. When something is driven by delusion, karma, what can we expect? Suffering. More suffering. So recognizing, understanding, we look on ourselves. Am I free from the delusions and karma? If I am not free from the delusion and karma, if my state or my being, my existence is driven by karma and delusions, I am bound to experience a lot of suffering in my life, throughout my life. As long as I am in samsara, I am going to experience a lot of suffering throughout. With that understanding, we learn how to accept it as is part of your existence, part of your life. So you have less resistance. Yes, this is not the best situation I want to be in. I would be much better if I have better situation than that. But at the same time, I know this is part of my life. This is part of samsaric life. Being in that state, I have to accept, learn to accept. Being in this world, in this part of the country, we have to learn to accept the dryness. Do you get it? If you constantly have aversion to that, you will make your life miserable. Do you get it? Maybe of course, maybe you would like more humid, more moisture, but that is not the case. Being in this place means that you have to experience and deal with the dryness. And so if you mentally prepare yourself and accept this is part of being in this place, this part of the country, then it doesn't bother you so much. It might bother you physically a little bit, but it does not bother you mentally so much. Because mentally you have prepared, you have acceptance of that. When you have not acceptance of that, when you are not willing to kind of accept that, when you are not willing to endure that hardship that comes from that dryness, let's say, then you experience on physical level and emotional, mental level, two pains. You go through two pains. Of course, physically it's disturbing you, maybe some rashes or some other thing, a lot of things, but because your mind is so involved, oh, I hate this dryness, or do you get it what I mean? Your mind keeps on repeating, I hate this, I don't like this, and it's miserable, and it creates more miserableness, more pain, more suffering on emotional level. We don't have to do that. We can stop that emotional level of pain. Yes?
So then there's one aspect of renunciation, cutting that mind that keeps dwelling on whatever the situation is that's so terrible. Is that one aspect of renunciation?
You can say it from one aspect, because renunciation means letting go of attachment, of certain experience, certain feeling, certain situation, and so forth. And we are so wedded and experienced because of that attachment, because I'm attached to certain experience, certain feelings, and I'm thinking too much about the opposite of that. Too much, because I'm attached to the opposite state. So therefore, if you can let it go of that, then definitely is one form of renunciation, you can say. But real renunciation is letting go of the attachment. if I'm not attached to a certain feeling, then if I experience the opposite of that, it doesn't bother me so much. But when I'm attached to the other state, then it will bother me when I experience that more. So with that kind of understanding, the reality, the fact is, as long as we are in samsara, as long as our existence driven by delusion karma, we are bound to experience so many suffering, pain, physical and mental over the times. Whereas happiness comes not very often. Suffering is more often than the happiness in samsaric state. Once you are free from samsaric state, then there is all happiness all the time, no pain, more suffering. But we have not reached that state, and we are in samsara. So the real state of samsara is there is more suffering than happiness. And because of that, it makes more sense, reasonable, to learn how to befriend the suffering, because there is more of that. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes much more sense and reasonable to make ourselves friend with those sufferings. So therefore it doesn't bother you, because there are too many of them. So therefore that is what is so. Therefore we train ourselves to accept the suffering, pain, with much more openness, with much more. It doesn't mean that we are running after suffering to come it. Do you get it? What? It doesn't mean that we are running after the suffering so that we get more suffering, pain. What it means is, despite our best to change the situations, but when we do encounter those pain and sufferings, then learning how to accept it and having the patience to endure it. And it is part of the training, as it will come. So if we started to train that way, then eventually, no matter how big suffering it might seem, you can endure it without any feeling of pain anymore, suffering anymore. It is something like, you see some people who have some physical problems in their life, and eventually they get used to it. It takes them a long time to get used to it, of their state of being that. And over the time, sometimes they don't even feel that, they don't have that. Do you get it? Because they are so used to it. At the very beginning, it bothered them so much, because something is missing in their life. One of the limbs or something is missing in their life, so it bothered them and go through a lot of difficulties emotionally, not only physical level, emotionally and so forth. But over the time, I've seen a lot of people who they have been so used to that physical state. Now it doesn't bother them anymore. They don't think about anything. They don't bother it. And for them it is same as just like ourselves. They don't think about it, it doesn't bother them anymore, because they got so used to it over the time. So it's the same in training, with our training. If we train ourselves to accept, to endure the sufferings, eventually we can lead to state just like themselves. It doesn't bother you anymore. It doesn't seem problem anymore. suffering anymore, pain anymore, because of your training, acceptance, and enduring in that. Being so familiarized with that, it doesn't bother you anymore. At the moment, we try to escape all the time, escape, trying to escape all the time. So therefore, it bothers us, it disturbs us when we encounter small things. And if we can really escape it, I think that would be great. But the problem, we cannot escape it, but we're trying to escape it, which we cannot escape. It will be something else if you can really escape it. Maybe then you try, maybe one day you can escape it. But as long as we are in samsara, that is part of it, we cannot escape that. Only when you are free from samsara, then we are free from that, the suffering and the pain. And so therefore we have to train and learn how to accept, instead of trying to escape when we cannot escape. Yeah, I think we will have a short break.
It's good for you.
So again, another way not to have aversion to the sufferings. We have aversion because we think this is something bad, useless, painful, not helpful. So therefore, again, if we can change that perspective, that it is something beneficial, something helpful, then we might not have so much aversion, the aversion that we have. And if we don't have so much aversion when we encounter, then it doesn't disturb us so much. So therefore, one way looking is, as it said here, without suffering, so it is the benefit of suffering, is looking, instead of seeing it as harmful and useless, seeing it as something helpful, beneficial. And how can we look at something as beneficial, helpful, is, as it said, without suffering there is no renunciations. So again, if we talk about spiritual attainment, growth, without the renunciations, we cannot, there's no way we can achieve nirvana, or total freedom from samsara, total freedom from all the delusions. Without the renunciation, there's no way we can achieve fully enlightened state, our full potentials. And without the suffering, there's no renunciation. Renunciation is a strong wish to overcome and free from the suffering and cause of the suffering. So if there is no suffering, there is no wish to overcome and free from the suffering. And if you do not have that renunciations, a wish to overcome and free from suffering and cause of suffering, then there is no nirvana and no fully enlightened state. So from that perspective, it helps us to develop those spiritual goals, achieve spiritual goals. It is something like that. You go through sudden small hardship in order to have much more better situations. Let's say we go through, let's say, some surgery to fix the problems. Okay? Nobody wants to go through surgery, in general speaking. But sometimes when you have big problem, and when doctor find that problem can be solved through surgery, maybe it can be a relief. Do you get it? To know that through this surgery, your problem can be solved. So therefore, you might be very grateful that there is this treatment and surgery that you can overcome that problem. So same way, if we understand that this pain, this suffering, whatever we experience, is like this surgery, which help us to free the problem of freeing ourselves totally from samsara and the cause of the samsara. So then you begin to appreciate it. You don't see it totally useless, totally unbeneficial. You see something as something beneficial, something useful. Another thing is, without the suffering, we can easily be so distracted, and waste our life. Just to give an example of course it is just a story. There is a story of Shariputra and one of his disciples. And the disciple has so much devotions and respect for his teacher, Shariputra. And it is said that he used to write, Shariputra is one of the main disciples of Buddha. And when this students or disciple, when he used to ride elephant and horse, and whenever he sees Shariputra far away, he used to get up to show the respect and pay. And that was so much devotion and respect he had for his teachers and so forth. And very strong practitioner, very devoted practitioners. And according to the stories, he was born in a Gaurams, and Shariputra thought that he should go there and help him to continue his spiritual path, to guide him. And he went and he would try. And it is, according to the story, it says, when he saw the Shariputra, he just waved and he just moved on, because he was so distracted of all this enjoyment and all these things, and because there wasn't any pain, suffering. So he didn't feel that need of spiritual path. Do you get it? And he was totally distracted in that kind of enjoyment, and you can spend your whole life just in that, and which our life can be much more than that if we use it properly. But sometimes that happens, and sometimes doesn't it happen to us as when we don't have any problem, we forget the Dharma, we forget the center, and then when we have some difficulty, then again we remember the Dharma, remember the centers, and so forth. I mean, we have very small experience of that sometimes. But that is so suffering help us to help us to be more spiritually grounded and not be too distracted. Not to be distracted. So again, from that perspective, it's been helpful and beneficial, because it helps us to be grounded in our spiritual path. It helps us to guide us in our path. So you can see spiritual as something like magnet which pull you in the right directions in your spiritual path. Something positive, something helpful. So if you see that, then you wouldn't have so much aversion to it. If you don't have so much aversion to it, then you will not be so disturbed when you encounter that. So all this is verses is the author, the Shantideva, is saying that we have to train, practice, learn to perfect our patience in accepting and enduring the suffering, so that our mind becomes very firm and very strong, that no matter how strong suffering, pain, it will not disturb our mind. It's like your mind, through your practice of your patience, your mind becomes like very still and stability on the very deep of oceans. And all these waves on the surface comes, and big waves, small waves comes and goes. It doesn't disturb that stillness on the depth of the ocean. So that we can reach that state through training. It doesn't mean there will not be any waves on the surface. Okay? There will be a lot of waves, big and small, throughout our life. As long as we are in samsara, we are going to face all these waves of pain and sufferings, all that. But your mind is so still, so calm. It doesn't disturb that calmness, that stillness. And that comes through the training. That comes through the training. At the moment, our mind is so fragile. Small waves totally kind of disturb it. Totally disturb it. Cannot stand still for a moment. So that is what it means. Your mind then, therefore mind, you should stand firm, like that, like the depth of ocean, firm, still, calm, no matter how much external waves or problems. Then verse number 13, if some ascetics and the people of Karnapa endure the pain of cuts and burn for no reasons, then for the sake of liberation, why have I no courage? Of course, so some of the ascetic practitioners, pre-Buddhist ascetic practitioners, some of them, as a part of their path for liberation, sometimes they jump in fire, cuts. They say that what they call the three, Jesum, trident. There is some, I don't know, I saw in somewhere, there's belief that trident, when through their practice, if they jump and if these two on the right and this go in right, then you can achieve liberation. There is some belief like that, So they jump on that, they jump on fire, they cut, that kind of things. So here, Shantideva is saying, of course, from Buddhist point of view, maybe there's no reason. Of course, they might disagree with that, okay? But from Buddhist point of view, without big reasons or good reasons, that people are willing to endure such a hardship, physical hardship, burning yourself, jumping yourself in the fire, walking on the nails, or like jumping in that tree, what was tridents and so forth. And Kannaba is, I think, one of the places in India, South India, where there is some kind of their culture, traditional, where as part of their sport or some kind of that, they used to weave and cut and like that. So again, people go that kind of hardship. And also we see sometimes some others where people beat up themselves physically, you know, with the rocks, and that you can see them bleeding so much. You see lot of that. People do have those endurance to go through those hardships. And also, if you see, I saw a couple of days ago on the news internet in Nepal, where there is one Hindu festivals, and during that festivals, one of the guy pierced his tongue with that much of iron, like that, and it is kind of, it symbolizes victory of evil or something, and it has been done for over centuries, more than 100 years, and this guy has been doing 9 years now. His father did 20 years or something, and he's going to resign, and he needs someone to carry on that. He didn't do first. He was asking someone, nobody came, and then at the end he did it because he didn't want to break the tradition or whatever. Now he said he's retiring, he needs someone else to do that, but he did 9 years. So again, this is another example of like that. The people willing to go so much, endure so much hardship. I mean, you can imagine breathing your tongue with 1 feet. And you see, I saw a lot of pictures in Africa, you know, with people with tongue long and like that, freezing themselves. And I heard some of them are like sign of seniority, you know. More you have or bigger you have, you are more senior, kind of respected as a more seniority in some of those Africa's culture. So it is kind of, in order to be you respected and be the senior in your community, so you freeze yourself. The more and the bigger it is, I guess you are more regarded that. So these are some of the kind of example, not a really big meaning and big reasons to go through such hardship, but still people do. If that is the case, here the Shantideva is making point, if that is the case, why can't we endure some suffering, some hardship, some pain in order to achieve liberation, or in order to liberate each and every sentient being to a highest level of happiness, fully enlightened state? If people are willing to go through such hardship, suffering for a small reason, small purpose, why can't we go through why can't we experience, why can't we go through some level of hardship, pain we encounter in our path in order for a good purpose, better purpose, good reasons, not for just for yourself, but to liberate each and every sentient beings, not only to short-term samsaric pleasure, but lasting true happiness, a fully enlightened state. So therefore, he is saying, therefore with that kind of understanding, we need to have incredible courages, strong courages, confidence to endure any kind of challenges, hardship, suffering that we might encounter as we progress in our path. So that is training our mind, mentally preparing, mentally with that kind of thinking, with that kind of contemplations, with that kind of analysis, we prepare ourselves mentally, be very strong to encounter any kind of obstacles, suffering, pain, hardship on our path. I believe this is so important. One of the things that I find in modern world, when we try to engage in our spiritual path, this is one of the things missing, the patience. Patience. Not having enough patience. You face a little bit of problems, some hardships, some suffering while in your path, then you easily give up. The purpose, it seems our motivation to engage in the spiritual path is not to have problem, not to have suffering, not to have hardship. It seems to be like kind of the motivation, is quite not the pure motivations. It is, I want to get in this meditation, I want to get in the spiritual path because I want to feel good. Not because I want to individually grow up, achieve liberation or fully enlightened state so that I can be most beneficial to oneself and others. And so when we have that kind of motivation, then of course when we encounter small hardship, then you think, I'm supposed to be less problems, less suffering when I practice the Dharma. Now there's more. I just give up. Do you get it what I mean? So here Shantideva is saying we shouldn't have such motivations. It is not healthy in our spiritual path for long term. Instead, on the contradictory, we need to have prepare and have a strong confidence, courageous to endure any hardship that we might face in our path. So that is training. Then 14. There is nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. So through becoming acquainted with small harms, I shall learn to patiently accept greater harms. Lot of so much harm and problem and suffering, which I might not be able to, which I might be overwhelmed, and I cannot. So again, reminding ourselves, there is nothing which cannot become easier if we have acquainted or familiarized with that through practices, especially on the mental level. Even on physical level, you can see some people, how they do with their bodies, flexibility and all these things, incredible thing they do. Like when they have some of the gyms, gymnastic, ice gymnastic or all kind of gymnastic, so flexibility and so not diligent, no, very flexibility, and they can do incredible things which you just wonder, how can they do that? How are they able to do that? Also, in some of the YouTube, I saw some people, someone sent me with one stick, holding one stick, and then so many sticks he built. Huge. And concentrations, and that, so one by one, and so they come to that point through practice, doing again and again, familiarizing with that practice, acquainting with that practice. As they get, now it becomes very smooth and easy for them. It wasn't so easy, it wasn't so smooth when they started. But through practices, now they have reached a point where it becomes so easy now. And especially with the mind, it has even much more flexibility of being able to do than what your physical can do. Physical has limitations. Mind has no limitations because it's non-physical. So the ability, the capacity, the potential for the mind to develop is incredible. So therefore, if we familiarize, if we are acquainted with certain practice, starting with small, then definitely we'll, over the time, even when we are faced with a big suffering or difficulty, hardship, harm, we can easily deal with it with much more calmness, peacefulness, without being agitated, disturbed, and upset. I mean, yeah. That is the quality of the mind, the ability. If we don't practice and acquaintance or familiarize, then again, even the very small things can be very difficult. How easy to think in certain way and how difficult to think in certain way, it depends on how much familiarity you had, how much practice you had, how much acquaintance you had. Just a very simple things. For example, some of the very there are people who are able to sit and meditate for 24 hours. Just one place, just sit. When they started, it wasn't like that. But they have reached that state. I visited in one of the way back 2002-3 when I was in Taos. There is a Chinese nunnery there, and I visited both the monastery and nunnery at that time, a couple of times. And in nunnery, the master, I think he passed away now. Probably they have new master, but the master told me they have so many nuns, and of course they have this meditation like box. So if you fall asleep, you can fall down like that, and they were like that all. And he told me that there are two nuns, whether they have actualized shamatha or not, that is something, because that is mental state I can't. But whether they can stay there for 24 hours, two of them. Among all these monks, there are two of them. So again, all this is, and through practice, through acquaintance. And very simple for us when we started with your breathing. Probably a lot of you, just within the few rounds of 2-3, your mind is distracted. Sometimes even with one round, sometimes 2 rounds, 3 rounds. But eventually you will be able to go through without distraction 10 rounds, maybe 20 rounds, and it increases. What it shows is if you keep on doing it, if you keep on practicing, if you keep on acquaintance, it will improve. Same with our concentrations. At the moment for us, it seems so difficult to say, to have a love and compassion for someone who harmed me, who tortured me. It just seems impossible. How can someone have compassion to someone who harmed you, who tortured you? But because we are not acquainted with that way of practice, because we are not familiar with that. But those who have practiced again and again, familiarized with such way of contemplating, such way of thinking, such way of responding, they are able to do that. They are able to do that. For them, they find quite easy, quite natural, quite spontaneous. For us, it's so difficult, so difficult. Even to have compassion for even someone like stranger. Because we have not familiarized ourselves, acquainted with, so not practice that again. So that is the nature of the mind is such that such flexibility there. If we familiarize through practice in contemplating, thinking, responding in a different way, even it's very difficult now, eventually it will be very easy. The mind has that nature to change and to be flexible in that way. Much more on bigger, stronger level than the physical level. So at the moment it's very hard for us to endure and face strong, big harm, hardship problems. But if we started from now to be able to training ourselves and practicing ourselves to accept, to endure with a small pain, with small problem, with small hardship, as we get good at that practice, eventually you can endure even the biggest hardship, even the biggest problems. So that is where again we have to remind ourselves that it seems impossible for me but to endure such a hardship now, but I can reach that state if I start practicing with a small thing now, with a small harm, small hardship, small problems. Then verse number 15, who has not seen this to be so with a tripling suffering? What is tripling? Traveling. What is traveling?
Small, insignificant.
Okay. Such as bite of snake, that might be trembling or not. Yeah. If it doesn't have poison. An insect which does not have poisons, feeling of hunger and thirst, and with such minor things as rashes. I should not be impatient with heat and cold and wind and rain, sickness, bondage and beating. For if I am harmed, that cause me will increase. So again, insignificance, small, if it is not, as I said, poisonous or something, mosquito bite, let's say, it doesn't carry malaria. Or fly, sometimes even fly just come, nothing, it just move and you can be very impatient. And sometimes mosquito might not even bite you, just going woo like that. can make you very impatient as well. So again, those small things, we have to learn how to be patient. If we don't learn how to be patient with this small, very small, insignificant hardship, problem, pain, you will never be able to come to terms where you will be able to accept big problems. Everything starts with small, and as you get good, it gets better and better. That you can't expect. I can't expect to reach a state where I can easily let go of some of those things and accept them freely when strong disasters happen in my life, if I have not trained myself with a small thing to begin with. That is the problem with us. We don't train, practice with small these things, and when problem happens, then we think, I should have been able to deal with it, and I'm not able to deal it, and I must be bad, or this practice must be useless, and so on and so on. A lot of time that is it. A lot of time that is it. So that is it. We have to be able to kind of, as long as it doesn't harm our health, of course that will be something. If it harms your health, you have to be more careful. I mean, do you get it, what I mean? You don't want to mess up. But it is something insignificant which doesn't harm your health, but there is a little bit of feeling of uncomfortableness. The heat is a little bit too much. The cold is a little bit too much. Today I feel more cold than yesterday. It's not going to harm my physically or my health, but feeling of a little bit uncomfortable because the heat increases, or because of the cold increases, or because of dryness increases, so forth. And we become very impatient. Have no patience to endure a little bit of that. And we need to fix it immediately. Try to fix it immediately. And that doesn't help us to be patient. That's it. Then we think everything can be fixed immediately and has to be fixed immediately. Our mentality become like that. Our way of thinking become like it because we are so used to that. That's our meditations. That's what we are familiar with. That's what we are acquainted with. So therefore, any problem happens in our life, we think, I can fix it, I have to fix it, not only I can fix it, not only fix it, I should be able to fix it immediately. And when we can't do it, then it feels it is end of the world. It feels it is end of the world. You feel like it is kind of, you can't do much. Hopeless, helpless, unable to accept. So here Shantideva is saying, we learn, train, practice how to endure some of those insignificance, hardship, problem, pain, as long as it's not so harmful for your health and so forth. If I'm a little bit too cold, I have to learn how to accept it. If it's a little bit too hot, I have to learn how to accept it. If it's a little bit too dry today, I have to learn how to accept it. It is small insignificance, but that is training. Eventually, as you get good at that, then you can accept and encounter and endure even most difficult hardship. Not to spoil yourself totally, Of course, different people might have different ideas, perspective on that, I guess. Some people might think, oh, it is kind of useless and kind of stupid when you can make yourself more comfortable while you, when there is possibility of being able to make it more comfortable, why not make it comfortable? Why do you have to make it? Why do you have to experience uncomfortable? Well, I mean, if that uncomfortable is not so big, it's just tiny, you have to learn how to do it. So that eventually you reach it, then when you don't have, there is no way you can make it comfortable anymore, you have the ability to accept it and not feel so bad about it. But if we have not trained in that way, you cannot reach that state. Yeah, and that is it. A lot of people who have trained themselves to that. They don't feel the pain and suffering more. For example, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
We tend to cause a lot of trouble for ourselves and others by constantly trying to avoid pain. I think probably 80% of the pollution in the world is stuff that people try to avoid pain with, and then they poison all the water with chemicals, pharmaceutical companies, they, poison the land to have food faster, easier, and more than we can eat. And I think that it's sort of helpful for me to say, okay, I don't have to go after all this stuff because it just has repercussions down the road too, and just, it doesn't mean don't eat well or anything, but it means just exaggerated states of pleasure become like a delirium for our country particularly. And you can say, okay, people are suffering inside, you can see that, but we're not solving the problem by looking for all these ways to stop the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
The external ways.
Yeah, I think for me, individually, this is my way of thinking. Everyone has different way of thinking, and we all have right to think different way and try to live different way. But I'm kind of like this, similar like what is like in monastery. Of course, when we were young, we didn't have access. Now I have much more access because I'm one of those senior monks, and so in monastery, in the winter it can be quite cold, and they give me a heater, electronic heater, and I decided not to use it. It is one, I think, it's not really harming my health, and I have lived in that condition for that many years, and I was okay, and now I think I should be able to do okay without that. Of course, it will make me a little bit more, give me a little bit more comfort if I can have that. And again, one, I think my way is, of course, one, it used more energy of the monastery. And that is one thing. The second thing is that I didn't want to spoil myself, so that wherever I go, I will be able to kind of adjust to the harsh environment if I do need to go. Where you have no access to all those kind of things, and so that is and then what I notice is when I go to certain places, let's say I came to United States here, and here you have much more better, so I appreciate much more. I appreciate much more. Then, so I guess when you do get that, you appreciate more, and also when you don't. So again, it is part of, similar to that, we have to learn how to endure or accept, especially with those insignificant small things, and gradually improve to be able to accept and with a much more bigger problem and pain and sufferings. So I guess I think this is similar to what Shantideva is kind of trying to say. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
So then we'll go to page 100. On page 100 is the short mandala offering. We'll do this in Tibetan, and then the request for the Lama to remain long in English.
Yeah, I can. Where is the?
We're going to be on page 235.
So, due to all the virtues, oneself and others are created. May the Dharma flourish and benefit countless beings. May His Own the Lama Kapil Lama Savaramose, all the gurus, holy beings have long, healthy life, all their wishes be fulfilled. May all the Dharma centers, especially the Building Center here, may it grow, expand, flourish, and benefit countless sentient beings with different programs and activities. May all the teachers, all the sponsors, benefactors, all the members, all the people who participate in different programs, and all their families have long, healthy life, prosperity, successful life, happy and meaningful life. May all the violence, negativities that are going around the world, may they be immediately pacified. May there be more peace, calm, understanding and care for each other. And may all have long, healthy, prosperous, successful, happy life. May all sentient beings who are not feeling well, may they recover from the sickness as quick as possible. Have long, healthy life. May all sentient beings who are having different obstacles in their life, small or big, may all the obstacles and cause of the obstacle be immediately pacified. May their all wishes be fulfilled according to the Dharma. May all sentient beings who have died wherever they are now, may they be free from all the fear, suffering, cause of suffering. Have precious human rebirth, meet the Dharma, and actualize the Dharma in that very lifetime. May each and every sentient being be able to actualize and fully develop true love, compassion, bodhicitta, wisdom, understanding, emptiness as quick as possible. Those who have already actualized not diminish but increase more and more. Due to teach time of merit which empty from its own side, may I, which empty from its own side, achieve fully enlightened state which empty from its own side, for the benefit of all sentient beings which empty from its own side.
Okay, again on page 235, we'll do both of the prayers there in Tibetan.
Gehela
Page 244, we'll do the two prayers there for His Holiness and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I think that as we're reciting these, we're also creating the causes for the good health and long life of all of our other precious lamas. We'll do His Holiness's in Tibetan and then Rinpoche's in English.
Gami Rale Goe Shingham Gir Endam Dewa Malu Zhongwei Shenrei Singwang Tenzin Gaso Yi Jape Sute Badu Tengyur Shi. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long.
And Rowena can recite the list of those on dedication.
Obstacles.
Is that still working? I guess there's
Okay. Those for suffering obstacles, the Los Alamos Community Church, Martin Now, Kim Kerr, Judith, Armand, Lisa, Jessica, Heather, Mark, Amanda, Catherine, Charlene, my family, Patrick, Asa, Loretta, Dahlia, Ian, Wendy, David, and Joan, Israel, Jessica, Wendy, Paul, Dorothy, Glenn, Chelo, Dave, Lucille, Janice, Alan Martin, Nancy, Melanie, Chris, Alexia, Matthew, Christopher, Tito, Owen, Ryan, Mariana, Steve, Emmy Rose, Elena, AJ and N, Richard, Mary, Suzanne, Jenny, Emily, Frederick, Chris K, Amanda G, John, Lek, Dee Dee, Grace, Madeline, Gary and B, Romy, Patricia, Jeremiah, Maria, David, Carl, Lila, Faith, Laura, Will, Gary, Tom F., Isaac, J.F., Nancy F., Carmelita, the Kirpus family, Woozer the cat, Wendy, Kathy, Pippin, Sam, Susanna, Joel, Nick, Darren, Alan, Scott, Cynthia, Clay, Chris S. Those suffering illness: Carl Wheeler, Aiko Fisher, Gavin Pendleton, Dee Dee Downs, Sarah Harlan, Lisa Cook, Tony Reese, Albert, Margaret Mary, Cora, David, Carolyn, Glenn, Sonia, Lynn, Janice's Eyes, Tess, Annie Kay, Christian Saia, Nova Cynthia, Dave and Laura, Itty Bitty the Cat, Thich Nhat Hanh, Patrick, Barbara, Bobby, Tommy, Asa, Loretta, Chelo, Israel, Brennan, Connor, Kristen, Elena, Joe, Nan, Arlene, Rudy, Gehela, Cecilia Albert, Nikolai, Linda Renike, Stephen Zarowski, Kim, Stephanie, Chacha the dog, Greg, Eric, Amanda G., Rob, Linda, Armand S., Christian S., Christopher R., Alan Martin, Marie, Stephanie P., Sunny the cat, Mommy and Dad, Kristen, Sharon Wilson, Veiko, Sammy, Morel, Shay. Those who passed: Margaret Evelyn, Barley, Kelly Brady, Abby the cat, Jenny, Margie, Bill Jennings, Victor, Bobby, Isabel Maria, Uncle John, Keith, Sandy Shook, Yeshi Kondro, Judy Gursky, Andreas, John Johnson.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you.